from the Lakeside Newsroom of the Henrico Citizen, your hometown news source since 2001. This is the Henrico News Minute with publisher Tom Lapis.
Plans for the most significant development in Henrico's history earn endorsement from the Planning Commission, and the school board relaxes some quarantine standards for students. We'll have details in today's Henrico News Minute. It's Friday, September 10th, 2021. It's brought to you today by Henrico County CSB Prevention Services.
And now for the news.
Well, the most significant planned development in Henrico's history is one step closer to reality today following the Planning Commission's unanimous endorsement of it last night. The commission voted to follow the advice of county planners and recommend rezoning plans and a provisional use permit for the proposed $2.3 billion GreenCity community, which would be located just east of I-95 and north of East Parham Road. The cases next will go to the county's Board of Supervisors for final approval, which could happen October 12th. A build-out of the community could take 13 years or more. Ultimately, it will include a mixture of more than 2,100 residential units, more than 1.9 million square feet of office space, nearly 180,000 square feet of retail space, and a 17,000-seat indoor arena that could be home to a minor league basketball or hockey team, or both. Developers termed the community an eco-district because of the environmentally friendly amenities it will include. It'll be built on about 204 acres. Developers first plan to renovate the 305,000 square foot former Best Products headquarter building on the site by the end of 2023. They'll remake it into a unique self-sufficient building. By the middle of next year, they anticipate beginning work on the arena, which could be completed by late 2025. You can read a whole lot more about last night's vote and the plans for GreenCity at henricocitizen.com right now. Henrico County Public Schools will ease up on some quarantine guidelines following guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Virginia Department of Health. That announcement came yesterday at a Henrico School Board meeting. The length of quarantines for unvaccinated people who have experienced a close contact with a confirmed COVID-19 case has been shortened from 14 days to 10 days. And an unvaccinated person who's had close contact with an infected person will be allowed to return to school 8 days after exposure if he or she tests negative with a PCR or rapid test 5 days or more after the exposure. That's based on new guidance from the VDH. Said School Board Vice Chair Marcy Shea, quote, "The goal for all of us is to keep our students in the building safely," end quote. Also yesterday, officials announced an exception to the close contact rule following guidance from the VDH for K through 12 settings. That says that if an unvaccinated student is 3 feet or farther away from a COVID-19 infected student and both are wearing masks, that will not be considered close contact. Just shortly after the school board discussed its COVID situation yesterday, President Joe Biden announced a 6-part national strategy to fight the virus, one component of which encourages governors to require that school employees be vaccinated. At yesterday's meeting, Henrico Schools Chief of Staff Beth Tigan discussed vaccine requirements, saying that the school system had no plans to mandate vaccination for its employees. She also said, quote, "We're living in a time where it's really difficult right now to find sufficient qualified staff that help with keeping our schools open and operating. To add another barrier that is very personal to some people, it is not something we decided to do at this point," end quote. You can read much more coverage from yesterday's meeting at henricocitizen.com by clicking on News and then Education. Well, a shortage of bus drivers and an increase in the number of parents who are taking their students to and from school has led to some lengthy delays in transportation, both for those who ride buses and those who are being picked up during the first 2 days of school. The school system is down about 100 drivers. That number has not changed in the past few weeks. Bus drivers ran 513 double routes on the first day of school, according to Lenny Pritchard, the chief of operations for the school system. Most of those double routes happen in the Three Chopt and Tuckahoe districts in the county's west end. They have experienced the longest delays due in part to their high populations. Yesterday, Pritchard said, quote, "We know we've got some work to do. We've got some improvement areas. We're getting there. It's the first time we've had to do this on a full scale in 2 years, just like everybody else," end quote. The system has announced a 15% pay increase for its lowest paid bus drivers. Starting pay is now $17.15 an hour, up from $14.91 an hour. New COVID cases in Henrico dropped yesterday to 115, down 30 from Wednesday's total of 145. The county's now averaging 113 new daily cases during the past 7 days. That's on the low end of the relative number it's experienced since late August. For the second time in 3 days, the county did report 2 new virus-related deaths. Victims were in their 50s and 60s. And for the second straight day yesterday, it reported 2 virus-related hospitalizations. The Henrico-based Relationship Foundation of Virginia recently recognized 2 local men as part of its 2021 Funding Fathers campaign, which raised money and awareness for the organization. Jeff Crook of Village Bank was named the group's Funding Father of the Year, while Jeff Katz of WRVA was named its Father Figure of the Year. Katz raised more than $18,000, the most in the history of the event, while Crook raised nearly $12,000. Jeff Crook also happens to be a friend of mine, so congrats to him and Jeff Katz. The organization selected 11 fathers to raise money through late August in a variety of ways. Collectively, they secured more than $77,000 for the foundation. Participants and their families gathered at the Diamond August 28th to celebrate the effort. And today begins race weekend at Richmond Raceway with 3 events over 2 days. Things get started today with practice for the Virginia is for Racing Lovers 150 at 1:30, then qualifying for the race at 5 and the actual race at 7. It's part of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, and it's the first time these cars have raced at Richmond since 2002. And tomorrow at 2:30 is the Go Bowling 250. That's part of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And then at 7 tomorrow is the Federated Auto Parts 400, which is part of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. You can find tickets for any of these events at richmondraceway.com.
As we all strive to do our part during this extraordinary time, Henrico Area Mental Health serves as your local and public mental health agency, continuing to do its part. We all experience mental health challenges, especially during extreme challenging times.
It doesn't matter your age, gender, race, or ethnicity. Each person is affected differently. If you're a resident of Charles City, New Kent, or Henrico counties, and you, a family member or friend, or someone you know may need someone to talk to about the mental health challenges being experienced,
Do your part and call us at 804-727-8515. That's 804-727-8515. We're here to help. Remember, mental health is good health. Call Henrico Area Mental Health at 804-727-8515. That number again is 804-727-8515.
This message comes to you from Henrico County CSB Prevention Services.